Our coverage continuing here now of the decision to take over JCPS by the state.
That's right, and we have joining us to discuss it and break this down, Sam Corbett, former JCPS board member, joining us now. So we can call it a takeover, even though they're leaving Dr. Polio in place, which we had thought there might be an overseer. So it looks like it's one caveat where they're giving a little.
Right. I think that they recognize the job that Superintendent Polio's done during his 10 months as the interim and now a couple months as the permanent superintendent. So clearly I think that's a very positive signal from the leadership in Frankfort to JCPS.
Sam, you've been going through this since 4 o'clock when it came out this afternoon. Is this the worst case scenario, as bad as we thought it could be? And why do you think they decided in the end to do the takeover?
Well, no, it is not the worst case scenario because they could have taken the superintendent out and put a manager of their choosing in place. So the fact that Dr. Polio is going to be involved is very positive. Although Dr. Polio will now be reporting to an associate commissioner of education in Frankfort on a weekly basis. So that person is going to provide a lot of oversight and report back to the commissioner. The other significant point that touches me because of my experience as a school board member is they have in effect taken the elected school board and put them in an advisory only capacity. So theoretically any decision the board would make and a recommendation they would make could be overturned by somebody else.
You have been a board member. You were there through good times and through bad. Do you think this was warranted, this takeover, knowing what you know about JCPS?
Well, I think none of us are pleased with the progress that JCPS has made. And over the most recent history, the last 3 or 4 years, the current board has had some real challenges. They've had some challenges, quite honestly, working amongst themselves. And so, you know, you can make a case on either side, but obviously the decision makers in this situation, the interim commissioner and the State Board of Education, decided to take the fairly drastic step.
If my student goes to JCPS, how is this going to impact them? Will they even see the state's influence? Everybody's concerned because of the political nature that led us to this point.
Well, the answer is yes, Doug, your child, my grandchildren could see the impact of this. Let me give you a quick example. The superintendent and the board have talked about the need to build an additional middle school in eastern Jefferson County because we have several schools that are beyond capacity. They were theoretically going to move forward with that idea. Now, under this proposed scenario of state takeover, the state, for whatever reason, could say, I'm sorry, we don't think you should build that middle school, and that decision would no longer be in the hands of either the superintendent or the locally elected board. Just one example. You could be in
a holding pattern just depending on what happens. My guess is they might say, let's prioritize and get scores and many different things that they addressed. If you were sitting on the board, we know that they're making the decision on, many have said we're going to litigate, we're going to sue over this decision. If you were sitting on that board, what would your vote be on that?
Well, they have actually a couple options, Rachel. They could elect to appeal this decision to the State Board of Education, but the State Board of Education, I'm assuming, supports this decision because otherwise you wouldn't think Dr. Lewis would make the recommendation. Then they could potentially file legal action, which has been alluded to in the last couple of weeks by some of the sitting board members. Personally, I would not do that. I think we need to move on. We need to put the focus back on the kids and in doing a better job in the schools and not take the time, spend the money, and the distraction of a long, drawn-out leadership.
Do you think the state comes out of a takeover in 1 year?
I think we're going to have to, the reality is, Doug, we're going to have to show significant progress in order for Commissioner Lewis and the State Board of Education to totally release the district after only 1 year. It's very difficult to make significant changes. And remember, we talked last week, most of the plans for the coming school year, which their fiscal year starts July 1, school year starts mid-August, most of those plans have already been laid out. So how much impact can you have on the next year? And then if you're going to make a decision to stay or not stay after a year, I don't see that happening. This is going to be a 2 to 3 year situation.
We'll see. Thank you so much for your,
my pleasure.
Your expertise on this. Appreciate it.